back to another episode of the Third Impact Anime Podcast. Tonight on this episode, we are going to be talking about the brand new smash hit film Demon Slayer Mugen Train. I am your host, Austin. I am the coffee Hashira, and I am joined by a myriad of excellent co-hosts for this episode. Who do I have with me in, let's see, we're going to go in alphabetical order. So I'm A. So who's next after me?
That's probably me, yeah, Edwin.
That would be you.
Alright. Well, I'm the pork noodle Hashira.
Sounds delicious.
Yep.
And after E, who's next after E?
Give me 1 second, I'm doing the alphabet in my head.
Okay, don't hurt yourself.
I know, this is a process, just you're gonna have to be patient with me.
Hint, there's only 26.
Okay, it's me. I'm next. Whew, that was tricky. Hi everybody, it's Ryan, and I am the monkey Hashira, and that is spelled with 2 E's.
And finally, the last in our alphabet.
It's Tori, the Hashira of napping.
The sleepy
That'd
Hashira.
be a very effective...
Yes.
Well, as we've seen in this film that we'll talk about later, putting things to sleep can be a very powerful skill. So we'll definitely talk about that shortly in our episode. But yes, we're talking about the new Demon Slayer movie that came out in theaters in Japan last year in 2020 and came out in theaters in the US and other territories, I think, about a month ago or so. That's generally when we all saw it.
Yeah.
We are recording this episode in mid-May of 2021, so we are very firmly in the time frame where many people across the country have been fully vaccinated against the coronavirus pandemic, so we are on the way out of the pandemic. There are still many thousands of people that still need to go get their shots, but they are widely available. If you listening at home have not gotten your shot yet, please go do us all a favor and do yourself a wonderful favor and get yourself a vaccine. That would be a great thing for you to do so that you can go back to the movie theaters like we all got the chance to do.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're all vaccinated at this point, which means cons are in the future.
Yes.
Yep.
Now that people are starting to get their shots, we can start having conventions again in the coming months. Hopefully by the end of the year, fingers crossed. I'm not saying anything definitively, but hopefully by the end of the year, we can have conventions back to some degree of normality, normalcy, whatever. That word's overused, but you know what I mean.
Saying that, you've already jinxed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I hope that's not the case, but, knock on wood. If I did jinx it, you guys can blame me. 100% my fault.
All of the corporate press releases will now start with, in unprecedented times of normality.
In buzzword of buzzword.
I am really tired of, anytime I, talk to somebody there and I'm like, oh, yeah, so, what do you like to do normally? And they're like, oh, before COVID, when things were normal. And I'm like, I swear to God, if anybody says that to me again, obviously, yes, it's not normal right now, but I think we all are hyper aware of that.
Yes, we all understand contextual communication. You don't have to necessarily make that, whatever. Anyway. So all of that being said, yes, all of us here are fully vaccinated. I think most of all the Third Impact Anime staff has been vaccinated at this point, of which we are all super grateful for the opportunity to have done and encourage you to do the same. So, other than that, briefly, what has everyone been up to lately? I guess for me, I've been playing a lot of video games. I finally, after all these years, started Persona 5. And I am playing Persona 5 Royal. I know, I am super late to the party. I kind of regret waiting so long. But
I regret you starting it.
Well, thank you, Edwin. I appreciate the support.
You're welcome.
Thank you. But I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I think part of my initial hesitancy to actually start the game was the fact that I knew it was going to be like a 150 plus hour experience. But it's fairly breezy, sitting down to play it in my sessions of sitting down to play video games, I find myself very easily breezing through an hour, and it doesn't feel like a slog or anything like that. It seems
It's
like
going to be like
a
closer
large...
to 100. It only really will get like stressful if you're stopping to meticulously like figure out your schedule so you can max all the social links like I did.
Yeah, it's funny. I was actually on my PlayStation 3 yesterday, and I was looking at my friends list and comparing trophies, and I looked at yours, and I was like, oh my gosh, Ryan got a 100% platinum on this game?
Yeah.
You crazy man.
Okay, I should clarify that also. Getting a platinum on Royal is significantly easier than getting it on base Persona 5. Like, significantly.
Nice
Like,
flex.
Yeah. I was not
I'm
able
very...
to get a... Rather, I didn't try to get a platinum on base Persona 5, because it's just, like... It's absurdly impossible. Like, you have to basically do, like, a lot of New Game Plus, which is another, like, 100 or so hours. You have to beat every difficult fight. Royal basically just makes you do, like, a few little mundane things. It's really not that bad to actually platinum it. But either way, that game is worth platinuming because it's so good.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I say I regret waiting so long, but I do and I don't. It's like I kind of do regret waiting so long to like be part of the discourse and part of the fandom whenever it was at its height. But at the same time, I am kind of glad that I waited for Royal, because it seems like it has a lot of quality of life improvements over the original. So I'm grateful for that, I guess.
Royal, though, there's like... I'm not entirely a fan of certain things they did, because there is a way to miss the Royal content, and it's kind of difficult to do. I don't really want to say anything just in case like you don't want to know, or anybody who's listening doesn't want to know. But like, if you are somebody out there who's listening and wants to experience Royal, like the full experience, then Google what you need to do before you like actually get into it. Otherwise, you might miss it and waste like 100 hours of your time.
Well, Ryan, what have you been up to lately?
Well, today I finished the Attack on Titan game on PS4.
Oh, very nice. How was that?
I have a lot of thoughts about it, but I'll try to make them brief. Basically, that game's gotten absurdly expensive, by the way, if you're a collector like I am. For some ungodly reason, it just has, like, supply issues, so it only got, like, one printing, so it's still really expensive. So getting it was a pain in its own way. But then I, like, played it, and it's a good game. Like, the Titan combat is very fun, but it feels like it has a couple of glitchy moments in it. Like, it was not a perfect game by any means. Like, sometimes the Titans you were supposed to be luring to this area so you could capture them, and they just like sit there literally walking in circles, and I'm just like, can you just come over here so I can get on with my day and
let me kill you?
Yeah. And like sometimes I just like would get hit or die, and it just didn't feel fair. And the very end of the game, like, so the first game covers season 1 and the beginning of season 2, but the season 2 bits is an epilogue. Like, it ends with you capturing Annie, and then season 2 bits begin with seeing the Beast Titan, and you have to do expeditions to like unlock various areas around the walls in order to unlock the new epilogue chapters. But it takes so long because you have to do like 20 like 5-minute segments in order to unlock a new epilogue chapter, and it's honestly not worth it. It feels like really bad padding.
So this is a Koei Tecmo joint, right?
Yeah.
So how does it feel compared to like their other games, like, I don't know, Hyrule Warriors or Strikers or something like that?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I actually am playing Strikers as well, but I'm not super far into it yet. But it's different. Like, it's not like an onslaught of enemies. Like, you fight like a reasonable amount of Titans per engagement, but it does have that vibe. Like, you have like side missions that happen during like while you're doing something, and people get in peril, and each mission is affected based on like how you perform. Like, it definitely does have the Dynasty Warrior vibe, but it's not quite the same. Like, it feels a little toned down, which is actually kind of a good thing in this case, because I couldn't imagine fighting, like, 40,000 Titans at once.
Yeah, fair enough. That would be a lot of models on screen that are huge.
Yeah.
But, Tori, give us the what's what with you.
I just finished my spring semester of college, so that's nice and good.
Yay, clapping!
Woo! So other than that, I mostly have been gaming. I picked up Spiritfarer not that long ago, and that's been a lot of fun. It's a very relax before you go to bed type game, but it's also very sad at the same time. Definitely have gotten a little teary-eyed while playing it, but I'm an easy crier, as we all know.
I've had that on my list for, like, a really long time. Is it, like, all I pretty much was expecting it to be?
I think it's
By
really
that, I mean good.
Yeah, I think it's really good. It definitely is like resource management and stuff like that, and usually I am not a huge fan of things like that, but they do it in a way that's really entertaining and really fun, even though it gets a little repetitive. But the story is what makes it really special, for sure. And then I started playing Genshin Impact, which I don't know why I picked that up.
So is it as much like Breath of the Wild as people say, or is that just kind of like people saying, oh, this is like Dark Souls, but it's actually not?
It kind of is.
Wait, who says it's Dark Souls?
No. Like, I don't mean Genshin Impact is Dark Souls.
Oh.
I mean people comparing things to Dark Souls.
Oh.
It kind of is
Sorry,
Breath
to
of the
clarify.
It is kind of Breath of the Wildian. It's open world. You have weapons that you collect, and food, and crafting, and cooking. And the only thing that it doesn't have, or that it does have that Breath of the Wild doesn't, is the gacha element. So you roll for characters, of course. But I don't know much about it. Like, I avoided a lot of the hype around it, I guess, and people still like really hardcore play it, but I'm just picking it up and I've not gotten very far in the story at all, so I'm interested to see kind of what it's all about and why people like it so much, because unpopular opinion, Breath of the Wild didn't really grab me that much, so I don't know how this game's gonna do with me either, since they play very similarly.
And a quick note for our listeners, this will be the last episode that Ryan and Tori will be on simultaneously.
No, like, I am definitely a person that totally understands both the people that couldn't get into Breath of the Wild and the people that love it, because I have been both of those people. Like,
You really have?
Yeah, like, my journey with that game has been wild, we'll say that. Like, I bought it whenever I got my Switch way back in 2017, played it for a few hours, and was just like, I don't think I like this game. And then I approached it last year, and I'm like, I think I love this game. So I've been, again, both of those people. So I understand, Tori. I'm sure we will hear more about your Genshin Impact adventures in the future.
Yes.
Edwin, what's up with you?
I'm just waiting for the new Guilty Gear to come out.
Okay. What's this one called? I know they all have ridiculous names.
Strive.
That's very
so
simple.
It's not.
Where are you going to play it?
The beta comes out tomorrow, so I'll play it on my PS4.
Nice. Very cool.
I thought the beta came out like a couple weeks ago. You were playing it then too, I thought.
There's a second beta.
Oh.
Yeah, man. Beta Plus. And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will talk about Demon Slayer, the movie, Mugen Train. Alright, We're back from our break, and we're going to be talking about Demon Slayer, the movie Mugen Train. But before that, we wanted to tell you guys a little bit about how you can support this podcast if you are interested in doing so. The easiest thing you can do is just go and visit our website, thirdimpactanime.com. There you can see a catalog of all of the previous episodes we've done, including some really amazing recent interviews that Sully has done with some of the folks responsible for one of the latest essay collections that was published about anime and manga legend Leiji Matsumoto. It was co-edited by a previous guest of this podcast, the wonderful Helen McCarthy, and he's done interviews with almost all of the contributors that have worked on that book. So it's really fascinating to hear them speak about not only Leiji Matsumoto as a very influential creator, but also like the process of what scholarly academic anime studies looks like. So definitely would recommend checking out those interviews. In addition to that, we have all of our reviews that we've done over there, various anime TV series and films, etc. If you would like to support the podcast financially, you can find us on Patreon, and that's patreon.com/thirdimpactanime. We don't have a huge amount of things related to like perks or whatever, but boy howdy do we appreciate your support. And we want to shout out all of our wonderful patrons that have supported us for quite a while. We love you guys very much. If I had your names in front of me, I would read them out, but I don't because I'm terrible. But yes, those are the best ways to support us, in addition to following us on Twitter at @TI_anime. But enough about that. Let's talk about the movie.
Quick topic on that is if you do want to support us more and you want like a custom tier where like we film Tori punching all of us in the face or something, like we're definitely willing to consider that.
I was just thinking the first person to donate to the $50 tier gets a personal German suplex by me every month.
Now that is a premium, kids.
Why not Italian?
What?
Why not an Italian suplex? You specified German.
Because that's what it's called. I don't know why it's not called the Italian suplex. It's the German suplex.
I'm cutting.
Mamma mia.
Ryan, you need to learn better.
Yeah.
I'm cutting that out.
All that out.
That was a failed joke.
Ryan, please. My brain hurts.
I'm
Ryan,
trying.
Please. Yes, the more money that is donated on Patreon, the more likelihood of Tori killing us increases. So if you want this podcast to end quickly, make sure to patronize. But anyway, let's talk about some anime in the form of Demon Slayer, the movie. So if you guys have followed this podcast for any period of time, you would have noticed that we did an episode on the original TV series for Demon Slayer back, I think about a year ago now. So a lot of the stuff that we covered generally about Demon Slayer as a franchise was discussed in that episode. So please, we encourage you to go listen to that for sort of a baseline understanding of the franchise and how it got to this point. But specifically when we're talking about the film, Tori, would you intro us by doing some of the production information?
Yeah, absolutely. The film was directed by Haruo Sotozaki. Most notably, a lot of his credits are animation direction, so he did a lot of work for things like Fruits Basket and Hell Girl and quite a few other series. But he was also the director, like the actual director of the Demon Slayer TV series. So he returned for the film, which you don't see often. Usually the film will go to another director. Our music was produced by Go Shina, who did a lot of music for Idolmaster and worked with Bandai Namco for quite a while. And then Yuki Kajira, which, do we need to give her an introduction at all?
She always
she's a queen.
Deserves an introduction.
That's valid. She's been in like anything that's overly dramatic, but her credentials are incredible, vastly incredible. Yes,
Fate
stacked.
Zero, Madoka Magica, tons of very iconic soundtracks under her belt. She is truly a legend.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Our animation was done by Ufotable. They're most famously known for working on the Fate series. I completely forgot that they also animated the Gyo OVA, which was the Junji Ito adaptation that was really bad. But I guess no matter how perfect of a creator you are, you have to have a stinker every now and then.
Sometimes you gotta take the projects that just pay the money, put the food in the mouth,
That's true.
I don't know why, but that sounds dirty.
Where else do you put your food?
I don't know. It's just the way you said that. I don't know. It's striking me as dirty.
Go home, Ryan.
Some interesting facts that I came across while kind of doing some research into the production model was right in the show notes. Apparently, this film made $456.1 million US, which is really incredible to me, and it actually took down Spirited Away as the highest grossing anime film.
Yeah, that was actually probably the most surprising thing for me at first, but then I thought about it, and honestly, it makes sense, because
with everything coming to streaming services, however, Demon Slayer Mugen Train did not.
Yeah, and I think it's also
true.
It's also a combination of like the fact that it came out just at a fairly good time. It's like there wasn't too many films out there competing against it, other than perhaps like Godzilla vs. Kong,
which
or
was
Mortal
available
Kombat.
via streaming.
Yeah.
Exactly. And really the only way to watch this film in the broad sense was to go to the theater, and it was also coming out at a time where, like we said, people are feeling a little bit more comfortable about returning to movie theaters because, A, movie theaters at this point have fairly good COVID safety protocols, and B, which is the most important thing, people are being vaccinated on a very large scale in the United States. So more people are becoming more comfortable with the idea of returning to the movie theater. And plus, Demon Slayer is just such a massive hit.
I genuinely don't think that it would have done even half of the total sales that it did if it weren't for all of those factors contributing to that.
Yeah, I think it still would have done incredibly well because, as we might remember from a few years ago, it's like the My Hero Academia films and the Dragon Ball Z movies, they did extremely well. Mm-hmm. I said back in our first episode that I think Demon Slayer might have reached the point where it's just as popular as My Hero Academia, but I think I might not necessarily think that anymore.
No.
I think Demon Slayer...
No, it probably was for like the bubble, but definitely not anymore.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I mean, I'm not trying to undercut Demon Slayer's popularity. It certainly is like a mainstream hit that probably even people outside of the anime space are watching, much like My Hero Academia. But I think My Hero Academia just has a little bit more, I don't know,
staying power, longevity.
Yeah, staying power.
It's pretty much on the same echelon as shows like Naruto.
Right, exactly. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Demon Slayer by saying that, but I guess my point is it's done incredibly well, and I think a lot of those contributing factors, like we mentioned, are sort of central in why it's done so well, but I kind of think it would have done pretty well anyway.
I think part of it might actually be the fact that Demon Slayer, the manga, is done. It's over. So, like, a lot of people have already read it and finished it, whereas My Hero is still going, but, like, new anime season of that just came out. And Demon Slayer, I think, is supposed to resume this winter, right?
I had not checked that schedule myself, but that would not surprise me.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really soon. So I think probably what'll happen is My Hero's been like much more consistent and like in our face with content. So that's definitely a contributing factor, but I think once Demon Slayer comes back, you'll see a lot more people talking about it again.
I really like seeing numbers. So that's kind of why I pulled so many for the production notes, but apparently over 36.9 million tickets were sold, and it was the number 4 film at the overall global box office, so that's really impressive. I mean, I do agree that it's kind of all the contributing factors of like the pandemic and movie theaters opening back up and vaccinations and whatever have you, but I mean, the series was extremely popular. I remember, and I wrote it down in here, that when that final volume released, it sold nearly 2 million copies. Like, that's nothing to shake a leg at. Like, that's a pretty big deal, especially for a manga, I'm pretty sure.
Also, anything that unseats Spirited Away is, like, it's got to be at least decent. Like, pandemic or not. Like, nobody's going to go...
Right.
You're not gonna like, venture outside during a pandemic if you're going to go watch something that's crap.
Right. Let's see. I pulled a quote from Yuma Takahashi, who was the producer of the anime series, kind of going back and forth with the production team from Ufotable, and they said, "I want to make more if I have the opportunity to do so." Talking about continuing Demon Slayer, and they all kind of agreed that because Mugen Train was such a contained arc that it worked best in the film format, which I think was very smart. I don't think they could have dragged that out in a way that would have actually been good to make it a complete season. They probably could have contained it in a few episodes within a season, but I think giving it that movie really gave it time and importance to kind of do its thing, and we can talk about that a little more later, but I think they were smart with making it a movie.
I think it probably, if anything, would have been like the first 6 episodes or something of the season, but yeah, the movie, it got the budget it deserved, was the big thing.
And part of it might have been like a financial decision where they realized that Demon Slayer is sort of like is super hot. So they want to try and figure out a way to capitalize on that. And I think making a feature film as the next piece of the continuing story to offer people was probably a good financial move. And I know a lot of these decisions were made before the pandemic, but it seems like it came out in a time period where pandemic itself didn't really maybe factor as much because it came out, fairly late. Like, I think if this film came out like in last summer, it would not have done this well because people were just not down to go to the theater at all because the pandemic was horrible.
Yeah.
But that being said, I think it was a smart move to make this next piece a film because they could really up the ante, and especially visually, because I went back and read the manga portion that this film adapts, and I mean, it certainly shows off like a lot of very flashy fight scenes in that manga chapter that they really brought to life in the film, and I think giving it the film treatment gives it this sense of gravitas rather than just being like continued episodes in another season. So I think from both an artistic and from a financial perspective, I think it does make sense that they would make the next portion of the story into a feature film.
Yeah, and pardon the pun, but they basically went ahead and greenlit the film while everybody was still on the train of Demon Slayer. Because they okayed that project halfway through the television broadcast, and there wasn't much time between the show ending and getting that movie, so it was still kind of in the public consciousness of entertainment.
Yeah, I hope a lot of people learned from the mistake of Attack on Titan, where, we get the first season, and it's the biggest thing ever, and then we wait 4 years
it was like 30 years. Yeah.
And Attack on Titan is still very popular, but it never got back to its kingship that it had in 2013. Like, it never got back there.
Well, I was starting back in 2013. I was watching Ace of the Diamond. I had to wait 6 years for a sequel.
Ugh.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really like a specific shonen problem or if it's like an industry problem. If they notice like a popular manga and they're like, that's got to get an anime right now, and it's like, wait until it's like almost done or close to it.
Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah, like, it's gonna take a long time for the manga to catch up because they don't want to do what they did with like Full Metal Alchemist or Soul Eater anymore because those were like awful at the end.
Yeah, we've been able to look back at those in hindsight. But anyway.
Oh, I don't want that to come across as me hating on Jujutsu Kaisen, by the way, because I've been watching it and I've been loving every minute of it, so...
And episode to come.
Potential episode to come, yes. I gotta talk about my man's Gojo and my dumb son, so...
Yeah. It's just kind of one of those things that's like, they want to capitalize on hype, sure, but then you finish up the material you're given, and then you just have to wait until the author releases more material. And specifically Attack on Titan's case, it was a monthly, so it took a really long time for there to be any like tangible amount of content to like do stuff with.
All right, Ryan, so part of this might be a retread of what we discussed in our series proper episode, but real quick, do you want to run down the cast for us?
Yeah, so we were talking about this beforehand, and apparently I did the cast the first time, and I don't remember this, so I might rehash stuff I've already said, so we're going to just run with it. So
and just for the audience to be aware, Ryan did a horrible job, so go back and listen to that episode.
I honestly, I probably did. I honestly legitimately do not remember, but... Here we go.
This is your redemption arc. Don't mess it up.
You blocked it out of your head.
I'm going to knock it out of the park this time. So, first of all, we got this character named Tanjiro. Now, I don't really remember who this is, but I'm told he's the main character.
I thought his name was Shotaro.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I may have watched the wrong movie, honestly. But yeah, so Tanjiro is the main character, obviously. He's the kid who saw his entire family get murdered, minus his sister, and he has water jutsus. In English, he's voiced by Zach Aguilar, who did Ango Natsume in Persona 5 Strikers, who I haven't actually met yet, so either they're very late in the game, or I am so far early into the game.
You're far early into the game.
Yeah. He also did Koichi in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. In Japanese, he was voiced by Natsuki Hane. He did Kaneki Ken from Tokyo Ghoul. While we're on the English versus Japanese, actually, I gotta ask, who watched this in sub versus dub?
I watched it sub.
We saw it subbed.
Yeah, we saw it subbed.
Yeah, me too.
We
so all of us saw it subbed then.
Yeah, Tori and I didn't really have a choice because we wanted to see it in IMAX, and it was only being offered in IMAX in Japanese. Not that that's a problem. I mean, that's how I watched the original TV show as well. But from everything I hear, mostly from you, Ryan, because I know you watched the original series on Adult Swim, the dub is good, and I'm sure it stayed just as good.
Yeah, for me, it was kind of the same. Like, I didn't want to watch it in IMAX necessarily, but pretty much when I tried to get tickets, they were already like sold out of most good showings, and all the seats were like that were left in them were all up front, and I'm not doing that. So I basically just kept on picking show times, not looking sub or dub, until I found a theater that had like decent seats, and I was just like, okay, this is it. This is what we're doing. And I looked after I purchased it, and I was like, okay, we got the sub. But I still loved it. Like, the dub was great. The sub is also great. Like, you're not going to go wrong with this series either way. Mm-hmm. So Nezuko is the little sister who gets turned into a demon, and she actually is like kind of absent from this movie for like half of it. In English, she's voiced by Abby Trott, who plays Tai Takami, and I think that's supposed to be Takemi, actually. She plays Tai Takemi in Persona 5 and Maya Fey in Phoenix Wright. In Japanese, she is voiced by Akari Kito, who plays Barbara in Genshin Impact. Zenitsu is a lightning boy who only knows one move, and in English, he's voiced by Alex Lay, who plays Kaiman in Dora Hidoro, and we just released an episode for that, did we not?
We did.
Yeah. And in Japanese, he's voiced by Hiro Shimono, who plays Connie in Attack on Titan and Dabi in My Hero Academia. And I love Dabi in My Hero Academia, by the way. He's a great character. Angry Boar Boy, wait, sorry, that's spelled wrong. Inosuke, is an angry boar boy who is voiced by Bryce Papenbrook in English, who is also Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan, and Yoshisugu Matsuoka in Japanese, who plays Helios in Sailor Moon Eternal and Kirito in SAO. Okay, so Rengoku is new to the movie. He was briefly seen at the end of the anime when you meet all the Hashira. He's the Hashira of Flame, and I kind of feel like when you're born with like bright yellow and red tipped hair, you're kind of destined to be a guy who has fire magic. So, you know,
he really takes after his dad.
They all look like main characters, don't they?
No, I mean, yeah, he kind of had like his destiny chosen for him because of his hair. So
I gotta think his mother is his stepmother because she looks nothing like him.
Yeah, no, I thought that too. I'm just like, oh, he got all of the genetics from his dad.
Oh, yes, because his dad and his brother all look identical, but mom is just like, I'm plain.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of weird, honestly, but Anyways, in English, he's voiced by Mark Whitten. He plays Hazekura in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and that's the alien that lived on the electricity tower, which Austin specifically asked me to mention.
Tori did that, not me.
But Tori did that. And in Japanese, he's voiced by Satoshi Hino, who plays Tiger's Eye in Sailor Moon Eternal and Sai from Naruto. Enmu is one of the two main antagonists from this movie. He is the lesser demon that becomes a choo-choo train because, I don't know, I guess he grew up watching Thomas the Tank Engine before he became a demon, so, you know.
Demon Slayer, the movie, Thomas the Tank Demon.
Thomas the Tank. Yeah, basically. But yeah, he was the villain for like the first half of the movie, and in English, he's voiced by Landon McDonald, who plays Kishibe in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Kamo in Jujutsu Kaisen. And in Japanese, he's voiced by Daisuke Hirakawa, who plays Rei Ryugazaki in Free, and Kakyoin. How do you pronounce their name?
Kakyoin.
Kakyoin, thank you. In JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And then last notable character is Akaza. And Akaza is another one of the antagonists. I'm sorry, I just went on to the Demon Slayer page for Akaza, and somebody has recently come in here and just bombed the page because all it says is Fortnite is better.
What?
I'm sorry. That like entirely derailed my train of thought, but all it says on this page is Fortnite is better.
Okay, that's random.
I'm gonna start that over. Okay, and the last major character to be introduced in this movie was Akaza, and Akaza is a upper rank demon who is the secondary antagonist for the rest of this movie after Enmu is, gone. In English, she's voiced by Lucian Doge. And I'm not sure if that's supposed to be Dodge.
No, that's Dodge.
Let's
friend.
say Dodge. Not the cryptocurrency.
I've been in crypto for way too long. Okay, in English, she's voiced by Lucian Dodge, who is also Mahito in Jujutsu Kaisen and Hambridge in Little Witch Academia. In Japanese, they are voiced by Akira Ishida, who plays Gaara in Naruto, yes, and the boy Kaoru Nagisa in Evangelion.
Note that we will continue to allow Ryan to do the cast lists for any episode that he is
Ryan
on.
does the cast.
I know. This is specifically so he can practice his Japanese pronunciation.
Yeah. The only other time is when I go to a sushi restaurant.
Yes. I would like the tempura, please.
The unagi.
Garugamesh.
The
Sake.
Sake.
All right, so thank you for that, Ryan. And Edwin, if you would not mind, tell us what this film is about.
Alright, so the plot's about Tanjiro and his team are assigned by the Demon Slayer Corps to accompany Hashira member Kyojiro Rengoku and investigate a string of disappearances aboard the Mugen Train. Once aboard, the Demon Slayers fall into the trap of Enmu, a member of the 12 Kizuki, who forces a group of children to kill them within their dream realms.
So yes, lots of serious stuff going on in this film. So I guess, first of all, I don't think so, but has anyone read the manga of Demon Slayer at this point?
No.
I'm on volume 2.
Okay, fair enough. Actually, I was really surprised that Comixology was giving away a copy of the first volume totally for free the other week, which is really awesome. I don't think Marvel or DC has ever given me a free volume of anything, but that was really cool to see them offering that as a freebie. But yes, I in preparation for this episode and just to refresh my mind on the story of what happened in the film, I went back and read the volume of the manga on which this arc is an adaptation of, and I did that, of course, through Viz's website and the Shonen Jump subscription, which is only $2 a month. So we're not sponsored, but you should totally do that because it's so worth your money. But I guess just initial impressions. We'll start with Tori. Generally, what did you think of the film?
Um, I was thinking about it the other day, and I will describe this film as basically Avengers Endgame in the sense of you took a character that I cared nothing about and made me care by the time the movie was over.
Interesting.
Who did that in Endgame?
Iron Man.
Oh.
Weird Marvel comparison aside, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. It still gave me the feeling of being kind of caught up in the story the same way that the anime did. I found the pacing a little bit weird. I think it dragged on at certain parts. Like, kind of in the beginning, and then it sped up really quick, and then it just, like, all hit the fan. And, I think that's my main complaint with it. I don't know why my voice just cracked. I think that is my main complaint with it if I had to find one, in all honesty. But it overall was a good balance of like really serious story with silly moments. I thought the dream sequences were a lot of fun. And we most definitely could talk some more about that. But I enjoyed it. I left the theater satisfied, and I felt like I got my money's worth, and it was cool to be back in the theater watching an anime movie with other people.
Oh, yeah.
So just to backtrack real quick, which character specifically do you think gave you the Tony Stark treatment?
Rengoku.
Oh, okay. I kind of figured that's who you were talking about, but I wasn't sure. I thought, well, she definitely doesn't mean Zenitsu.
I will never care about Zenitsu, and I will put that in writing and sign it and date it and notarize it.
I don't really think you're alone there. That's like a pretty popular opinion that Zenitsu is just kind of there.
Yeah. I think he's everyone's least favorite character. You know, whatever.
Easily.
Hey, if Zenitsu's your favorite character, I'm sorry.
I'm not.
But okay. Well, I'm the good cop. Ryan's the bad cop.
Yep.
Zenitsu's my favorite character.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
See, Edwin, I apologize. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely thought that it was worth going to the theater, and like just being in the theater again was like an experience in of itself. Like I was so happy. Funny thing, actually, my theater experience was probably one of the most bizarre because they carded me twice for this movie, like to make sure I was 17. So like we go up to the first thing where the guy takes your tickets, and he's like, "Can I see some IDs?" And I'm like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because I need to make sure you're 17." And I'm like, "Do I not look at least 17 to you?" And he's like, "Yeah, we have to be really careful." And I'm like, "Okay, you're just doing your job. That's fine." I thought it was weird, but then I go to sit down, and apparently they forgot to card a couple people, so they were coming through the entire theater carding everyone again. And I'm just like,
What?
I'm just like, I've never had this much trouble going to see an R-rated movie in my life, even before I
Yes.
was 17, when I would sneak in.
Yeah. I have never heard of that in my life.
Yeah, I'm just like, is this really like a problem? Like,
Wow.
it was so weird, but no,
Gosh.
it was great. I definitely enjoyed it. A lot of people I know are talking about how it's like the greatest anime movie ever because it's canon, and I disagree.
I'd like to know where you're getting these sources from, because I've looked all over and I've seen a lot of praise, but not people saying that it's their favorite movie.
People I speak to in person.
Ryan's very questionable social circle.
Yeah.
Of course, we're excluded.
Yeah.
Of course, he's talking to the official Demon Slayer fan group.
I'm talking to
course.
the official Demon Slayer Discord, of course. And yeah, but a lot of people are saying that they really like it, specifically because it's canon. I'm like, yeah, it's good that it's canon, but that doesn't make it any better or worse. Like, the plot is the plot, and I still enjoyed the plot, but it wasn't like my favorite anime movie of all time.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, at the base level, this film is a Shonen Jump movie.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is not to take anything away from it. I think it is a excellent Shonen Jump movie. I don't say that as a criticism, but you know, ultimately, it is a shonen battle film that just happens to be super excellent. I enjoy it I enjoyed it quite a bit. I had a lot of fun watching it in the theaters. I think Demon Slayer generally as a TV show is really good at exactly what it is. It is a very well realized thing within its genre. It does a lot of things that its genre does and does them extraordinarily well. But I mean, I don't think I would really count this film among like my personal all-time favorite anime movies, but I mean, it is really good, but you know.
I think it's going to be I think it's going to be interesting for people who are going to be like catching up once, I don't know, say like 10 years down the line this is all like finished. They're going to have to know, oh, I stop after season 1, go watch this movie, and then I start season 2, instead of just going down the playlist that you'll probably have and just like plow through season 2.
Well, it's not the first one. It's not the first show to do so. There's many other shows that also have had a movie in between seasons.
Yeah.
So I don't think the other fans are gonna struggle to, oh my gosh, I gotta watch a movie after season 1.
I think that's probably the most like notable one to have done it in a while, though.
That's true. I certainly want to go back to that later.
I know nothing about Pretty Cure, so go ahead.
Tori, if you're going to introduce that as an example, you have to give us context.
So basically, after the seasons go, they'll introduce these movies where it's like basically the handoff from one cure to another, and like all of the cures come together and fight like a common enemy. They're all over the place and wild, but they're canonical.
That's fairly common in like tokusatsu style storytelling. That is a tongue twister. Generally, well, we kind of got Ryan's impression, so Edwin, what did you think of the film?
I'm gonna be honest. For an anime film, it's very whatever. Because the way you have to look at it is just that it is an extension to the show. So without having prior knowledge to the show, then it really doesn't hold up them that well. And even after like watching the show, I just saw it as like a really long episode. Yeah. And not as a movie.
And in some way that works towards its favor and kind of against it in the way that you're contextualizing it, because it certainly does not stand alone. I mean, you have to have familiarity with the series in order to really know what's going on, because it literally does pick up as soon as the series is over, and then the next season theoretically will pick up as soon as the film ends.
It's the problem with it being canon, is that it does just by nature require prior knowledge.
Right, and fortunately Demon Slayer exists as a series that doesn't have a huge barrier of entry, unlike something like I don't know, I'm just gonna throw it out there, like the Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods. It's like that has a huge barrier of entry to it, because you have to see so much to understand the context of who Goku is, and all that stuff. But thankfully Demon Slayer is a 25 episode series. Most people, it's very accessible, but still, even so, it is true that like this film doesn't really stand on its own. You have to have that prior knowledge of what happened in the series. So I definitely hear you on that.
Yeah, whenever I go watch an anime film, I go watch it for like the spectacle, where the movie actually has like a larger budget than the regular TV series, which in some ways this show did fulfill that with the final fight, but I guess I was expecting a bit more than and I should have. So what I'm trying to say is that I went into this movie with the idea it'll be as good as like something like Promare or like Redline, and ended up getting something like the My Hero Academia movie.
Well, I guess, I mean, I certainly didn't have those expectations myself, so
I'm
I guess...
a big fan of Ufotable. That's the thing. I had higher hopes for them.
Okay. So you kind of expected this to be like the greatest thing they've ever made, and instead it was just kind of like great but not excellent. Is that what you're trying to
More
say?
of a thing with no. Here's the thing. I was expecting this to be like anime movie quality because I expected with this larger budget they could do more,
Hmm.
but it really fell flat.
It's funny you mentioned that larger budget, actually. It was one of the problems I had with it is they used it in ways that I didn't really like. So I don't know what it is about like certain movies or shows that are starting to do this now. Like anime is obviously like mostly 2D, and Demon Slayer particularly I recognize for its like beautiful art style. Like the attacks, anytime anybody's doing an attack, it looks so gorgeous. But about the time where Enmu becomes the train and it starts to get like overrun with that like
Really
shadowed...
bad CGI.
Yes. I hate the fact that they're like mixing weird CGI with anime, and I'm like, these two styles directly contrast each other. Like, just because you have a bigger budget, you did not need to do this.
You can make CGI look well in anime movies. Like, for example, going back to Promare, they used CGI extremely well in that movie because they didn't use it for like the characters. They used it like for the background instructions and whatnot. So whenever you use the CG towards the characters, which is what you're watching the movie for, anyways, then it's painfully obvious and just doesn't mesh well.
Yeah.
I can see what you guys mean there, because it certainly stands out, because you look at the characters who are super crisp, got those really detailed colors and outlines, and then you look at like the weird like flesh tentacle things.
Looks like a PS2
It takes
villain.
me out of the immersion, honestly.
Yeah. To me, for me, and I totally hear you guys' criticisms, and I largely agree, but for me, I think it made it visually more unsettling, which kind of, to me, ties in with the mood they were going for. So it didn't really bother me that much. It's like I can visually look at this and be like, yes, this is kind of not excellent CG, but I understand that this is supposed to make me feel uncomfortable and it look kind of gross, so I can kind of forgive it in that way.
It's horrible not in the way they're trying to get me.
Okay, I mean, that's fine. I mean, these things hit different people differently, but I guess we can talk, broadly about, since we brought up some of the visual deficits with like some of the CG stuff. I would say specifically one of the ways that this film shines pretty well is in its action direction, because I can definitely see, whenever I was reading through these chapters of the manga, it's like basically everything that happens in the film is taken directly from the manga, but the difference is that a lot of the scenes and the moments in the manga are sort of, they're staged and they're presented, in panels, but the way that they directed the way that action works, and this is true for the series and for this film, just enhances these fights so much, just to see them in motion compared with the way that the camera moves, the way that the music is coordinated, and just makes these big, like, visceral fight scenes hit so much more and make the stakes feel so much more serious. I know you guys have only really experienced this in the anime, but I will say that, watching it versus reading it, you can really tell that the people that they've gotten to do the fight choreography, and especially the camera work, are like kind of, top level people doing these kinds of battles. It's not just it's not phoned in. Like, you can tell that they really care about making a great visual experience with the way that they stage these fights, from very little guidance from the manga. Again, it's sort of paced out in the way that it happens. Like, that Tanjiro throws the sword into the demon at the very end, but it sort of happens in 2 panels, and it doesn't really register. It's like a blink and you miss it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But you watch it in the film, and it's like, dang, they really wanted you to know that sword hit, and it hit hard.
Yeah. Like, I think that's kind of true with, like, any comic, like, or manga to animation. Like, it's one thing to see it and kind of picture in your head what it was supposed to look like, then it's another to actually watch it happen. It's the reason I don't really read action stuff as much anymore, because it's like I tend to just flip through the pages until I get back to the story, unless it's
Again, we sort of established that this is basically a direct continuation of where we were in the anime. And then we get introduced to our principal character of this film, which is Rengoku, the Flame Hashira. And what did you guys think of him? Because I really liked this character. I thought he served as a good sort of he was kind of All Might-ish, I thought. He basically represents this idea of what Tanjiro could see himself being in the future. He's like Tanjiro like 5 years from now, if he, continues to go along this path of, righteousness and awesome demon powers, and also, and not demon powers, but awesome demon slaying powers, excuse me. And I thought he served as a great like mentor figure for Tanjiro, and he seemed to really resonate, or Tanjiro seemed to really resonate with Rengoku as a role model throughout the film. So what did you guys think of him, since he's the primary like new character in the story?
I thought they introduced him really well, and the one thing that is kind of difficult in a situation of like introducing a very powerful character is you have to demonstrate just how powerful they are. And I went to see this with a couple of friends, and the very beginning where they're fighting like just ordinary demons, my friend was like, I thought that scene was unnecessary because he just handled them in like 4 seconds. And I'm like, no, that's why that was there, is to show you that he could handle this in 4 seconds. Because then they're about to go up against somebody who's gotta be like, powerful. So that's your baseline, is he can handle, nothing demons in 4 seconds. And I thought that was like a really good introduction to just how strong he was. And he ran through 2 train cars as well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think scenes like that are important, because you're establishing a baseline of understanding of like, okay, this character is this powerful, so that they can set it up to it being plausible that he could hold his own against like a first rank or A rank demon later on. I mean, we eventually know what happens at the end of the film, but he is able to hold his own pretty well against that character, and I think it is important to establish, his, quote unquote power level, even though that's silly and I don't like characterizing it that way.
Yeah, I blame Dragon Ball for the concept of power levels.
It definitely made me want to go check out the manga a lot more, because I really ended up liking his character. I was taken aback by how extremely powerful he was, because he isn't the highest ranking Hashira, right?
I mean, I think we're supposed to assume that the Hashira are all kind of awesome, and they're all super super mega ultra awesome good demon slaying machine people.
Okay,
that is exactly how the mangaka intended you to interpret that. Yes.
Well, I'm glad we're on the same wavelength.
We can quote him on that, folks. No, okay, that makes sense. But I really was just taken aback by seeing his power in action, and especially during the fight scene with Akaza, I was just like, whoa, this dude's really strong. I also was reading a little bit, and apparently, I had mentioned this earlier, but I think it's neat that apparently he's supposedly canonically deaf or semi-deaf.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because...
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it happens during a fight or something like that. I didn't want to read too much because I didn't want to spoil myself too much on it, but I guess that explains why in the beginning he's just screaming, delicious, delicious, delicious. Well, not that he's screaming, but he's speaking at an elevated volume.
Okay. He was speaking high enough for everyone on that cart to be looking at him, so I don't think screaming is really that wrong of a choice there.
That is fair. And then when Tanjiro and everybody was trying to get his attention, like, he was just flat out ignoring them. So, like, now that I'm putting that together with, like, what I've read, but I don't know if that happens before. It must happen before. I'm just confusing myself. But putting that all together, I'm like, oh, yeah, I can see how that would be a thing. And that's actually pretty neat if that's true.
I agree. I really love that introduction of him in the episode. I really love that introduction of him in the film because it sort of establishes that he's kind of like Tanjiro in a way, where he's just like very, very earnest about things, very open about his kind of love of life sort of thing. So him just like being served this food and loudly exclaiming "delicious" over and over with this, big sort of happy, jubilant face and grin that he has, that is both kind and powerful. It's like I definitely see that they're trying to show this as he's the Kamina to Tanjiro's Simone. It's like this is who you could be. This is like the ideal self, I suppose, or the role model that he can look to.
Yeah.
Because he matches that same level of earnestness and passion and happiness through trauma that Tanjiro also has. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about this sort of independently of the film, but I think one thing that this series does really well is that it balances just abject horror with real, like, raw hope at the same time. And I think one without the other, there would be a thematic disconnect. Because I think that the hope and the passion and the love that Tanjiro has for not only Nezuko, but basically everyone that he comes across, and how he's able to empathize with them, I don't think that strikes quite as hot or quite as poignant as it would have if the world that he lived in was not so absolutely horrible. Like, these demons do horrible things, they eat people, there's, like, constantly innocent blood being spilt, constantly the threat of innocent people being killed, and yet Tanjiro has the audacity to be hopeful and to fight for the innocent anyway. And I think that's a super powerful message. I mean, it's a very exaggerated representation of how the real world can be at times. But I think it's just a great message to see. It's like, is the world horrible? Yes. But there are people out there doing or trying to be different and trying to stand up for the little guy against sort of abject horror. And I think that that's generally what Demon Slayer is about. But I think that again, that thematic tension only works if the horror is really horrible and the hope is really hopeful. I guess that's my point I'm trying to make, if that makes sense.
Very well said.
So Ryan mentioned in the cast that there's essentially like two principal antagonists, but let's talk about the first one first, because I think the first one is really interesting. So I don't really remember 100% how things went down in the TV series, but correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed really interesting that the first demon that basically possesses the train was kind of using other human beings to do his dirty work by preying on their sorrow, essentially. And I thought that was really fascinating. So, what did you guys think about the dynamic between, the first demon? He's not just necessarily jumping in and, trying to immediately punch Tanjiro and the gang, like, in the face and kill them and eat them. He does this, like, psychological warfare where he tries to get other human beings to go after these characters for him. So, what did you guys think about that?
Sounds pretty much like a demon to me.
Well said.
Yeah.
I thought it was Interesting. Very, like, villainous in the sense of, like, I'm not going to get my hands dirty. I'm going to let other people do the hard work and I'll reap the benefits.
Mm-hmm.
Like, one of them was dying. One of the kids was, like, dying, I think. And
he had tuberculosis.
Yeah,
the little girl was like, ew, you have tuberculosis or something like that. I don't. That was kind of the general effect of the line, but go ahead.
But like, yeah, like I felt bad for them because I'm just like, even if you had, you know, succeeded, there's no way that he would have actually like held up his end of the deal and like cured you or something.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of a, you know, a story within it was sort of like the miniature, like, little Faustian bargain going on there. It's just like these kids, you know, selling their souls to this demon who says that, you know, he's going to do something nice for them or whatever, but really he's just going to use them and, you know, toss them to the side. But I thought the way that his, like, powers manifested by, like, putting people to sleep and, like, attacking them inside of their dreams was really interesting. Not to mention just how absolutely hilarious it was in some of those dream sequences, especially Inosuke's, where he just imagines himself as this great leader and everyone else is like his pawn or his underling, if you guys remember that.
Yeah, he called him his underlings.
Yes, that was extremely funny. And I thought it was very, you know, even like Zenitsu's dream was like kind of cute because it was just like him frolicking in the fields with Nezuko. It's like that was his biggest dream.
That's the thing I hate about Zenitsu, though, is his entire purpose is that he likes Nezuko.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's not great, but I mean, I thought it was kind of sweet.
Yeah. Inosuke, though, he's just chaotic lawful.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Tanjiro's dream is basically just him being back with his family before they were all, you know, brutally murdered by the demon that ended up turning Nezuko. And those were some very poignant scenes. I think it did a good job of sort of bolstering a little bit more Tanjiro's relationship with his family, because we don't get a whole lot of that. Like, we see some of it in the first episode, but pretty quickly we are, you know, shown that they are kind of, I don't mean to sound so dismissive, but they're kind of like plot devices to get him, you know, moving forward with his, like, motivation and his demon slaying career and all that stuff. So it was nice for them to be able to go back and sort of show us some of the building blocks of his relationship with his family, like with his siblings and his mother, and that was very sweet. Like, even though it was in the dream and it wasn't necessarily real, it's like the emotions were real. You got to see, you know, what life was like before everything went to crap.
Yeah.
And I thought it was ultimately very, very brave and very telling of Tanjiro to, you know, make the realization that, like, this isn't real. Like, I have to accept the reality that my family is dead and I have to move on. A very WandaVision type moment, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
That is kind of a trope that's been done, like, a lot of times, though. Like, the family's gone, existential and or, like, you know, hallucinogenic, I can get my family back, and it's like, you know, you're happy for a minute and then you realize I have my job to do or something. Like, that trope has been done a lot, so I was like, I obviously know it's gonna happen here, but, like, it was kind of heart-wrenching to see his little, like, he was running into the forest to, like, escape, and his little brother is, like, running after him, begging him to not go. I'm like, oh god, please stop.
And
I know, I got so teary. I was just like, oh, please don't do this to me.
Yeah, it was hurtful. It hurt. Yeah. And I think the emotions were really poignant there, and I think they did a great job conveying that.
Oh, yeah.
I did like that they balanced out the really heartfelt, emotional dream of Tanjiro's with just the silliness of Inosuke's and Zenitsu's. It definitely made the blow a lot more, like, easier to deal with, because Tanjiro's was just so emotional, and, like, having that bounce back and forth between, like, okay, these guys are just dreaming of something silly, meanwhile Tanjiro's over here in his, like, own personal hell.
we don't really see too much of it, but I think we get enough to understand where he's coming from. There were a lot of scenes where we see like Rengoku's family life and his growing up years as a child, and how he, if I'm understanding this correctly, his dad was like also like a flame Hashira, maybe not a Hashira, but he could like do the flame concentration breathing
I think
thing.
they're going to be exploring later, because it was like he had like a
There's
dance.
a letter.
Yeah.
There's the letter that the dad had left, but he didn't read before he passed away.
Right. So, but we see these flashback scenes of him as a little boy with his brother, and his mom and his dad, and you see that he has some, familial conflict there. It's like his dad is kind of estranged from the family a bit, in a similar way that Tanjiro's dad was as well. So, again, that's kind of a connection between the two. They're kind of mirrors of each other. But I really loved it was such an interesting choice, and I don't really necessarily know what it means, but I kind of like it anyway. Like, that, especially that scene where his mother is talking to him, and she has this expression on her face that makes her look like kind of hostile and kind of harsh, but she tells him something very profound, and she teaches him about the idea of like, listen, Rengoku, you are a very gifted and strong and smart and intelligent child. You know what that means, right? That means you have a responsibility to take care of people that are weaker than you. And I, for one, I love that message. I think that's extremely important. But at the same time, I thought it was just so interesting that they characterized his mother as kind of this very frank, kind of cold-looking person, but she says these really heartfelt and emotionally deep and generous things. And I think maybe they were just trying to show the fact that she was ill, maybe presenting on her face. And again, I don't really necessarily know what that means, but I just like that contrast, I guess, that visual contrast. Do you guys have any thoughts about that? Did that stand out to you guys at all?
Not especially, like... Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I thought she was going to be a bad parent, too.
Yeah, it kind of threw me off, and I'm just like, is this wrong? Like, did they do this wrong? Should they have characterized her as a little bit more of like showing her heart on her sleeve or something? Or are they trying to make a point here? I don't necessarily know what that point is, but I think it's interesting.
The point is like they want people to look out for people, but like also it kind of was like he had a good upbringing, so he turned out like as good as he did. Like I think it's just kind of like a rare instance of like he just kind of had it good and turned out really well as a result.
Yeah, I mean, it shows that, his upbringing, even though his dad was kind of aloof, it's like it ended up forging who he was, and, informing his outlook on things and the person that he eventually becomes. So going into this film, I had no idea like specifically where it was going narratively, so it really took me off guard that Rengoku ended up dying in the end. Like, I don't think I expected that at all. Like, Tori, I remember you telling me, like, before we went to see the film, that you got spoiled on that someone dies. Did you know it was going to be him?
I did, unfortunately. I had read a spoiler, just point blank, that said Rengoku dies. And I'm just like, okay, thank you for that, first of all.
Well, that's just great. Whoever did that should be hanged, metaphorically.
I have had an even worse spoiler, and I know one of our talking points is where do you think the story is heading from here. I have had, unfortunately, and I do not know if it's true or not, an even worse spoiler, and if that is actually what happens, I think I'm going to just put it down and walk away.
Oh, no. But all that being said, like, I knew that there was going to be a character death, and I knew it couldn't be a main character, so I basically just put together the pieces and thought, okay, it's definitely going to be Rengoku.
Well, the way they were setting him up and the way they were making it all about him, like, it just made sense.
Right, exactly, but I don't know, it's like, what did you guys think? Like, did Rengoku's death shock you, or did you kind of know what was going to happen?
It felt inevitable.
Yeah. I kind of expected him to go a little longer into the series, but then once Enmu vanished, I like thought that we were actually like getting ready to wrap up, and then Akaza jumped out, and I was like, oh, somebody's gonna die.
Yeah. And for me, I mean, I kind of thought the same way. I was like, oh, the train stopped. We defeated the demon. Time for credits.
Yeah.
And then this other, like, top-tier demon comes out of nowhere. He also comes out of nowhere in the manga as well. And just, like, frickin' rips Rengoku a new one and then runs away. So, if I had to have, like, one major criticism, it would be that. Because it does feel a little random. Even though I think the scene and the fight itself and everything around it is good. It's good content.
I think what's going to happen is he's going to become Tanjiro's like white whale, basically. And Tanjiro's going to use Rengoku's death as motivation for like at least going forward another good chunk of the series. So it's probably set up for stuff that's going to be... Yeah, I think we haven't seen the last of him for sure, so this is probably like... It probably feels out of place right now. And it like kind of was, like it did just happen out of nowhere. Like they wrapped up the plot that had been happening for the entire movie, and then it's like, oh, by the way, nope, not done.
Yeah.
But we definitely haven't seen the last of Akaza.
Oh, sure, no way. And I think it's very reasonable for us to assume that, you know, Muzan being this, you know, the big bad of the series, I mean, he's pulling strings everywhere, so it's not inconceivable that this character just shows up out of nowhere and, you know, kills off one of the most powerful Hashira, or one of the lead, you know, demon slayers in the Demon Slayer Corps. It's not inconceivable, but in terms of like a narrative beat, it does definitely seem out of nowhere, because it kind of is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a little odd and very sudden, and that's kind of why I complained about the pacing earlier. I feel like it's a slight pacing problem, but it also just kind of randomly happens out of nowhere, so it's weird.
I will say, in terms of the pacing, you know, going back to the source material, it's about the same, but I think that it feels a little bit less strange because like of the chapter breaks. It's like the chapter breaks in the manga sort of, you know, obviously they break things up, and they're I don't know if Demon Slayer is a monthly or bi-monthly or weekly, probably not weekly manga, but it probably feels just more poignantly weirdly paced because of just the chapter structure. Not that that's really an excuse, because a film can kind of make that better. I think what would have made a little bit more sense is if we got some sort of establishing scene of there being a reason why Akaza shows up. Like maybe Muzan sends him there. Something, instead of him just like appearing. I think
that was probably the biggest part for me too, is that he had no purpose. He was just being a demon.
Right. He's not to belabor the point, but he just seems out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But I will say the fight was really fun. I thought ultimately Rengoku's death scene and all of the surrounding emotions with it was very well done, very poignant. And it does kind of end it on a Gurren Lagann episode 8-esque note, where, you know, our four Simons, you know, go off into the next part of the story, but instead of into depression, they go into, you know, more reinforced vigor for, you know, knowing that they need to defeat the demons, but they are inspired by Rengoku's sacrifice. I guess one of the final things that we should probably talk about is the continued unfortunate saga of Nezuko never being allowed to say anything, and I think that kind of hurts, even though I know the whole joke is that she can't talk. But I want her to be a more active participant in this story. I mean, so much about her is so interesting, and I want to hear these events unfolding from her perspective. I don't know why they constantly just make her quiet all the time. And not just quiet, like silent. She never says anything.
It's kind of funny.
And I don't think I like that.
It's funny that you said that, because when we were going through the cast and I got to Nezuko, in my mind I was just like, wait, did she actually, like, do anything? Like, I don't really think she said anything except for, like, making grunts when she was, like, fighting.
Right.
I agree completely with you, but then I try to contextualize it in the sense of, like, well, at least she can hold her own and is, like, like, not defenseless. It would be one thing if she didn't talk and was completely and utterly defenseless, but the fact that she can hold her own and saves Tanjiro's butt and everybody else's butt multiple times, like, she is a good character, and I would like to see more of her personality, but at least, like I said, she can fend for herself, and I think sometimes in a lot of shonen shows, the female characters get just kind of put on the back burner and can become helpless and things like that, but Nezuko makes a stand for herself, and that's an important detail, at least.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think we've seen time and time again how she is becoming more self-sufficient, more aware of how to use her demon powers, and more controlling over this, curse that she has. I just wish that we could hear her tell her story. Like, I want to hear from her, and I hope that eventually we get to the point in the show where she doesn't maybe have to wear the thing on her mouth, and the quicker the better, because that would be great, because she would just add an extra dynamic layer to the storytelling that I think the series could benefit from.
Yeah.
Instead of her being kind of like Lassie and Tanjiro being the boy, it's just like, what is it, Lassie? Zenitsu's stuck in the well?
Which, let's be honest, if it was any character, it would happen to him.
Final discussion point before we get into a few of the listener questions that we had. For you guys, how does this movie rank among all train anime that you've seen?
Lesser than
This is a very important
Baccano.
question. Okay, less than Baccano. But is it greater than Galaxy Express? I don't know, maybe.
I liked it more than Cabaneri, but not as much as Baccano.
Okay. Good to know. It's very important to have a full-throated discourse about which train anime is superior.
Although, I will say the one superior thing about Cabaneri is the one lady with all the muscles.
Yes, she does make that train go big choo-choo.
Choo-choo.
Yeah. I do think, though, that any train anime is below Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh, well, that's a given.
Right. So, Thomas reigns supreme still, but this is like mid-tier of train anime.
All right, so that hard-hitting conversation aside, let's move into some of the questions that we got from some listeners. So, at Lewis Comedian, and he asks, my question is, how angry do you think the people in first class felt dealing with all that demon BS? Frankly, they were probably all asleep too, but I'm sure that they were thinking, I did not pay a premium to have to deal with this nonsense.
I think the one sentence that I can say to sum it all up is, but did you die? Because by some miracle, despite the train derailing and flipping, no one died, and they made a point of saying that.
That is true. They made a point to say no one died. So they should be grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am tired
Demons
of all these
train.
I'm tired of all these monkey fighting demons on this Monday to Friday train. And, of course, we got some wonderful questions from our Discord, which you should totally join, thirdimpactanime.com. You can find the link there. From our wonderful question giver at It's Basil Time. So he always gives us more questions than what we need, so I'm just going to skip to the most hard-hitting one. Why is Boar Kid still the best? I mean, he just is. I mean, he's shirtless, barely wearing pants, has 2 jagged swords, and a boar head. I mean, what else do you want?
He showed so much emotion this time that he cried through his mask.
Yes, he did.
Yes, he did, and it was very glorious. I will say, I thought it was interesting that I kind of expected it to happen somehow, but he never takes the boar mask off in this movie.
Yeah, actually, I did kind of expect to see that too.
Mm-hmm. It stays on the whole time. I think we talked about this in our first episode on the TV series, but I'm sure it smells horrible in there.
Yeah.
Ew, I bet it does.
That sounds familiar. I'm pretty sure we said that exact thing.
Yes. Oh, okay, here's another companion piece to that question. What Boar Kid thing the Boar Kid did was your favorite in this movie?
Probably the aforementioned crying through the mask.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That or the underling dream.
Yeah, I think you basically said it there, Ryan.
Yeah.
I liked when he used his mask as a deterrent for all those demon eyes and wasn't put to sleep. And basically it was like, Tanjiro, you're about to kill yourself, stop.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
That was actually a really clever piece of writing there, because they established that, like, the demon's eyes don't know where Inosuke is looking, so they can't look him directly in the eye because all they see is the boar eyes, which aren't his.
Yeah.
That was pretty smart. That was a great way for them to, in a very JoJo's manner, sort of wiggle out of a very difficult villain situation.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Boar Kid had a lot of great moments in this film.
Yeah.
And I think the last question from Basil we want to address is, do you think the movie is worth making as much money as it has? And I'm going to toss this one over to Edwin. Like, since you're probably the most lukewarm on the film, like, do you think it really deserves all the accolades and box office success that it has gotten?
It just happened to come out at a right place, right time.
I think there's a lot of truth in that. I mean, I still think it's a good movie, but I think you're onto it.
I think, like we mentioned before, the fact that it came out when it did, and like being the first movie in theaters for a lot of people, definitely helped it.
Yeah.
But all in all, yeah, it was a good anime movie, but it did not really deserve to unseat Spirited Away.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. And I know it's a different time. Like, whenever Spirited Away came out in theaters, it was 2002. Anime wasn't nearly this massive worldwide cultural mainstream phenomenon that it is now. But
Spirited Away was the top for like so long.
Right. But yeah, I just think its success, speaks to a lot of different things. I mean, it is a lot of, right place at the right time things, but I think it also shows off, anime's mainstream appeal now. It's just like we're a long way from, it being 2002, where anime was more of a niche thing and people really only knew it as like Pokemon. It's like now anime is firmly mainstream. And I think the box office success kind of shows that off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I have enjoyed all the posts I've been seeing about people talking about taking their kids to go see it and how good of a time their kids have had.
How old are these children?
Well, I mean, I guess old enough to have watched Demon Slayer properly to go see the movie.
That's
2.
So, I mean...
Probably
it's
like
better
13-year-olds.
Yeah, it's better than when ooh, hold on. It is better than when we went to go see Deadpool and legitimately there was at least an 8-year-old in the row in front of us.
God, I hated that.
Oh dear. I will say my least favorite thing about this film is the gosh darn logo. It looks horrible. It looks like somebody made it in MS Paint in like 15 seconds, and it's bad.
Who's to
That
say
stupid
they didn't?
impact font. I mean, if you told me they did, I'd believe you. But yeah, that's the worst thing. Logo, bad. Do it over
Very
again.
bad.
Very bad.
It's-
Okay, guys, so we are now closing. We are at the end of the episode, but the very, very final thing, I want everybody to go around and say your favorite moment from the movie. So, alphabetical order. Edwin, what was your favorite moment from the film?
When the movie ended.
Okay, stunning, glorious recommendation for the film. Ryan, what is your favorite moment from the movie?
Probably the moment where Tanjiro realizes how to beat him, and every time he gets put to sleep, he just kills himself. And then he's like, he's getting put to sleep so frequently, he's like, wait, shit, is this a dream or is this real life?
That reminded me of Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Yeah, a little bit.
Dormammu, I've come to bargain. Tori, your favorite moment?
Can I cheat and pick two?
I guess.
No, that's fine. I'll pick one. If I had to pick just one, probably when Inosuke's crying and telling Tanjiro not to cry. And he's just like, no matter how bad or pathetic you feel, you still have to keep on living.
Mm-hmm. I
And
love
I'm
that
like,
moment, too.
For such an idiot, those are very wise words, sir.
Oh, for me, I always struggle with this one because I either blank and can't think of anything, or I have too many to pick. So, I think probably my favorite moment of the film was just whenever they finally beat the train Hashira, because it's like, the train Hashira, wow. Could you imagine?
Well,
I think
you
my
mean when
favorite...
the demons beat the train Hashira?
Ah! Stop! I'm confused. I think my favorite moment of like personal like emotional resonance in the film, I guess, was when they finally beat the train demon. It's like it took them so long, and he was such a magnificent threat, more so than any other demon that they fought in the series thus far. It's like when they finally beat him, it was very cathartic. It sucks that they were immediately given a demon that was even more difficult that they weren't able to beat, but I just felt, profound sense of catharsis whenever they finally, beat the train demon, so I enjoyed that quite a bit. Alright guys, so that has been our lengthy discussion of Demon Slayer, the movie, Mugen Train, or Demon Slayer, Mugen Train, the movie, whatever you want to call it. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this episode. It's always a pleasure to have you on. This has been another episode of the Third Impact Anime Podcast. If you'd like to support us, you can head on over to our website, which is thirdimpactanime.com, and listen to any of our previous episodes. If you would like to help us out even more, it would be really awesome if you went over to Apple Podcasts and wrote us a review and gave us a rating, because that helps us out so very much. If you'd like to support us financially, you can find us over on Patreon. That's patreon.com/thirdimpactanime. And if you just want to keep up with the stuff that we're doing, you can follow us over on Twitter at @TI_anime. My personal Twitter is at BebopShock, where you can follow me, Austin. And Edwin, where can people connect with you on the internet?
You can follow me by Twitter, SwiftZX00.
And would you and Ryan like to pitch your YouTube channel that hopefully will be back at some point?
Yeah, our channel is called Midshelf Gaming, and that's on YouTube. And it's good, I've been told.
Yes, I like your content, but only when you make it.
Yeah.
All right, and Tori, where can people connect with you?
Anyway, you can find me over on Twitter at Where's Waifu, where you can see all of my fantastic high-quality anime NFT art creations that I make instead of paying attention to the podcast.
Thanks for that, Tori.
You're welcome.
Anyway, thank you all at home for listening. We will see you in the next one.
You forgot to do my social.
Oh, yeah, Ryan, where can people connect with you on social? I thought you were just gonna, quit there with your with plugging the video game channel, but what about you personally?
No, I use the Bird site now that Facebook
Okay.
is, crap. You can follow me at MidshelfRyan on Twitter. I mostly post random thoughts that I have and or a running list of every video game I've completed for the year. With Attack on Titan, I am up to, I think it's number 24 now. 23.
That is excellent, because I've been doing the same thing, but I'm stuck at number 4.
Yeah. In my defense, I don't really have a social life.
There. You're on a podcast. People on podcasts, by definition, don't have social lives. They're all a bunch of losers.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.